Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we're doing a special edition of the Spotlight on the Community show today. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We are at the Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial and getting ready for their annual Memorial Day event. We get to chat with some of our iconic leaders in this town and, of course, folks that have served us just so well. And one of them, I'm honored to call him a friend and colleague, and that is Ed Hiner of the Hiner Group and Asymmetrical Evolution. He's a Lieutenant Commander, retired Navy SEAL, best-selling author of First, Fast, Fearless, and Guts on the New York Times best-selling list. And this guy is a cool cat. Ed, it's always good to see you, my friend.
Well, thank you, Drew. I'm humbled by you. Thank you very much.
Well, you are the most humble guy in around. Just very briefly talk about your career as a SEAL.
Well, I did 20 years, and I'm happy to say I never did a shore duty. That's very rare. 20 years, I did 9 major deployments, 6 to 8 monthers.
Right.
3 different wars. I was a training officer. I had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of cool things. I was with the Special Boat Service, English Special Forces, for a couple years on one of their task force, and that was pretty neat. Also was a budget instructor, which I was very proud to do. I put a lot of young SEALs through training, and it was a good time.
Right. Well, thank you for your service, and I know that certainly you're well known, and you've got so many little tentacles of things that interest you. We could actually make this an hour and 12-minute interview, and you've been on my show before, and we always run out of time on this. But talk about your passion for working with kids from underserved communities.
Yeah. Well, I partnered up with a gentleman by the name of Charles Parisi. We met years ago. And it was just kind of a serendipitous type of a meeting. And Charles is in that space as well. And I told him my story. My story was, about combat, Afghanistan, Iraq, other places I'd been. It wasn't really, those things didn't bother me, but really what bothered me was watching the kids suffer. I never planned on it. I don't think you can get your head around it until you see it. And that kind of brought me back to my own childhood. As I was growing up, my parents were gone before I was 12. I lived with my grandmother, Social Security. I was a rough kid, rough environment, and I just have a soft spot for kids in that environment because I think a lot of it, the society's kind of left them behind. Underserved meaning really we haven't really put enough effort into those communities to give them the American dream and the opportunity.
Right, and and your learnings from what you did in your different tours is sort of the premise of some of the curriculum you use with the kids, correct?
It is, yeah. We created off the second book, a thing called Guts. We created a program off that. We initiated that program at San Pasqual Academy, which is a foster youth academy. We got the rights to actually go up there and do it. It took a while to go.
Right.
We teach them mindset. And same as stuff we teach buds, SEAL students.
Right.
We teach these kids.
Yeah, and I bet they just love it. And at first, I think one of the things I love this is that you have a component of that saying the COO in me, or what's it called?
Oh, you're talking about the PhD in me?
Thank you, PhD in me. Thank you.
PhD.me is actually the website.
Very good.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, it's about the kids empowering themselves, not outsourcing their life. Because a lot of these kids in these situations have so many counselors and all these government entities around them, and they actually start to outsource their life, just like they did when they were younger with their parents before they became foster kids. And really, we just try to get them empower themselves on how to take control of their own life and how not to outsource it and to own it. It's theirs. And
right. So here you are at Mount Soledad. You only live a mile and a half away. You were saying on this. Have you come up here quite a bit?
I do. I come up here quite often. Yeah.
Right. And so when you see the plaques of these folks, some who are many not with us anymore, but the uniqueness of this memorial is they also recognize veterans that are still alive.
Yeah, I think this is one of the only memorials that does that.
It's the only memorial.
Yeah,
It's the
I
only,
thought so. I thought so.
It's the only way. What does that mean to you, being a veteran?
Well, I think it's incredible just to have it up here where we're at in this beautiful place surrounding the city, or where you can see the city. My plaque's actually to the left over there on the bottom.
So you do have a plaque here?
I do have a plaque.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to take a look at that.
Yes, I do. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the folks, I have friends who are up here, a lot of friends that didn't, make it home.
Right.
A lot of my teammates and stuff. But it's just, for me, it's a great place to just come and reflect.
Right. And especially on Memorial Day, correct?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very special day.
Yeah. Without question on this. And, we know that the folks at the memorial, up here, work very, very hard. There's 6,600 plaques, and there's so many people that come and visit this place during the year. Just imagine what that means to folks that are stumble on this. They must be just in awe. Do you agree?
Oh, sorry, would they stumble on?
Yeah, the ones that stumble on here and just didn't even know they were going to see this, and it's quite a tribute.
It is quite a tribute. I mean, especially the beautiful city and everything around it. And you look at these people, and you look at all the plaques, and these people had lives.
Right.
The ones that are gone, they were young people.
Right, exactly. Talk about, we're chatting with Ed Hiner. He's a decorated Navy SEAL, best-selling author of First, Fast, and Fearless, and Guts, educator, and everything in between. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, a special edition here at the Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial on Memorial Day, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, doing great things on this. For people like you, Ed, who have served and so forth, and you're tied to the schools so much, talk about how important it is for schools to actually come up here and visit, and many of them do.
They do. They really should. It should be, if you're in this area, it should be a mandatory field trip. And just to have, because we have a lot of volunteers that come up here and just teach these kids, and just to understand that sacrifice, because it's easy not to understand it as you grow up. Like, okay, they're just soldiers or whatever. No, they were young people, like some of them 18, 19 years old, killed in combat, or killed in serving the country. And I think it's really good to look at that and let kids grow up that way. And that's kind of patriotism at the beginning of it, just to respect and appreciate that sacrifice.
Right. Listen, you ooze leadership. Obviously, you have to in your role for many different reasons on this. Talk about how important that is for letting kids know that there's a leader in everybody, correct?
That's right. That is right. You're a leader and a follower, and that's kind of part of our SEAL ethos, if you look at it. Because everyone has a boss in some sense. Even the president, right? He has a wife or God or whatever you want to say. But everyone has a boss and everyone's a leader. And it doesn't mean you have to be in charge of a huge team and boss people around. It just means you step up to the plate and sacrifice yourself and do for others. It's really others focused.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. And it's so important for people to understand the sacrifices that are made. Obviously, the ultimate sacrifice that many of these folks did in duty in that area. As you may know, I'm honored that my father fought in World War II. He fought at Guadalcanal, and I even bought him a little brick out here. Next step, he's going to have a plaque as well. But if you were to chat with a group of folks that really just didn't quite understand why the military is so important to us, what would you say?
Well, having been, I think, in 45 different countries, some of them numerous times.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've been in a lot of places, and most of them developing third world type countries. And when you look around, you see, fascism or dictatorships or just some of these awful places, you realize that wolf is not that far from the tree line for us. 100%. And the defense that we have as Americans is so strong that we can take our time and do what we want in our lives. We live with freedom. We can protest. We can do whatever we want, really. And that would be gone without the defense that we have.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about that is the fact that, if you have not understood the history of how we got here from far back, and sometimes not too far back, and to your point, it is close to, if you don't pay attention, you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
And you think it's, just natural for you to be able to do anything you want, and thank God you can do that in this country. That can be taken away, and if it's taken away, it's going to be taken away in a very abrupt way, will it not?
It will be, and it would be extremely hard to get it back. It always is.
Right. Exactly. So, Ed, how do we get your books if we want to read them?
Well, just go on Amazon right now. You can just Amazon.com, go with First, Fast, and Fearless. Fearless or Guts.
Yeah.
You can get it Audible. You can get it Kindle if you want.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you allowed to talk about your third book?
Yeah. Well, my third book, I think I'm kind of going backwards. I started with leadership, and then I went back to Guts, which is personal leadership.
Right.
And then I'm kind of going into an ethos book. Ethos for the soul is what I want to call it.
Okay.
And it's kind of just examining your own personal life and defining that life that you want and aspire to be for yourself, and not someone else define it for you.
Right. So what would be the key points that you're looking at the book?
Well, there's a lot of them, but really just break down your life and see what you do wrong,
right?
Which I'm doing myself, and that's why it's taken me a long time. There's a lot to look at, but figure those things out. What do you want to quit? Because most people would say, one of the chapters I'm working on is people say, well, SEALs never quit. I'm like, wrong. They know when to quit. And I'm actually writing a chapter about quitting and understanding when to quit what. And some of the best decisions I've ever made in my life was when I quit something.
Interesting. Yep. And you know what? That is so true. When you think about that all through life, you and I are both entrepreneurs, and some of the decisions we decided not to go forward on, at the time you go, oh boy, I wish I would have done this. And then you take a step back, and a year later you go, I am so glad
that's right.
I didn't do that, for God's sake. I'm not sure. And that's interesting when you mention, you're right. It's almost like, not to necessarily equate that to gambling, but you do have to know when to walk away from the table.
That's
correct?
Exactly. I can sing that song with Kenny Rogers in my head right now.
Right.
When to fold them. Right.
Yeah. No. That's without question on that. So, just give some of your private thoughts for what you think today on Memorial Day.
Well, for me, I mean, I reflect back of all the friends that I've seen lost, their families. I've watched memorials. If people know the book and movie Lone Survivor, I was sitting in the desk of a good friend of mine who was also the ground force commander that was killed that day. So I had to take his personal effects and hand them off to the officer that had to give them to his family. And then we went to the memorial. It was gut-wrenching to watch a bunch of small children that had no idea really what was going on.
Right.
Received their dad's medals. And, you see that over and over again. And you see these kids that just grew up without a father. And, it's pretty... You do realize the sacrifice, and it's quite a bit.
Right. And also, listen, you've been always very magnanimous with your time on this, but, and you do some great speaking engagements. Some you do pro bono, many you do get paid for, as you should, and all that. If people want to get a hold of you and hear some inspirational speaks, how do they get a hold of you?
Just go to edhiner.com.
Okay.
And just email me, and I'll respond quickly.
Right. And I can attest to that. When I was working for the San Diego Union Tribune, we had him speak to a nice size business group. Did a great job. He had his book there as well. Ed Hiner, thank you so much for your service, your continued service with us here, especially with the education world. And we're going to look forward to having you back on some other edition of the Spotlight Show.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Drew. Thank you, Miller.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Ed Hiner, decorated Navy SEAL, best-selling author, our guest on this special edition of the Spotlight on the Community show. We are here at the Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial on this Memorial Day. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. Spotlight on the Community show is the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, doing great things for San Diegans. Over that 60-plus years. We hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.